Welcome to tonight's edition of the 18 WJTS News. I'm Bradford Raths, and with tonight being Christmas Eve, we thought we'd do things a little differently. We're here at the Santa Claus Museum with Pat Cook. So, Pat, before we start with our tour of the museum, talk a little bit about some of the historical elements.
We've tried to, in this very small area, incorporate the history of the Santa Claus letters, of the town, of Santa Claus land, of Santa Claus, of the Cook family, of everything, dolls. We've just tried to put a little bit of everything in here. We've many things stored away, not enough space for them.
So as we begin the tour, let's look right behind us here. You got letters from way back and to the present, too.
These are the 1930s letters, and these are some of the earliest ones that I could find. I just recently found another box that said Santa letters, so I haven't gone through it. But you'll see as you look at them that they were completely different from what they are now because there were no computers and there were no iPods and iPhones. At that time, many of the letters would be sent to a Legion post because the Legionnaires were working really hard to help get the letters answered. Particularly needy children who wrote in, the letter would be sent off to a Legion post in a big city. But they're all handwritten. Nowadays, of course, children either type or print. So these are all handwritten in cursive writing. We have them in the 40s, the 50s. You know, they were asking for dolls and very simple things. Of course, now they, dear Santa, may I please have a sleeping doll? And I would like a shrieking doll, and my other wee sister would like a train. Now, that's probably not what a child would say today. They wouldn't call their sister a wee sister, but things have changed a great deal, although the children still believe, and that's what's wonderful. Please bring me a ball and surprises. That's a pretty small request. Now we get computer printouts of a whole page. Although so many children say, help my mommy and daddy. Today I saw one that said, you know, take care of my grandmas. Many do ask about their brothers and sisters. So the kids are still really good. A lot of them send us drawings. We have a lot of beautiful drawings and a lot of art. They cut out things. Sometimes they put gum in them. We usually have pictures of elves. Elves are big. Pictures of Santa Claus, questions about Rudolph and the reindeer. This is Mr. and Mrs. Claus. So they've changed through the years, and yet they're much the same, actually. Still a lot of drawings we get, still a lot of children saying, we believe and we want to be good. That's the thing. They all want to be good. This child said, I wish I could be healthy again. Please make my mother better. A lot of them ask us to help them with personal problems, and they've done that for years and years and years. Maybe they don't like to live with mom. They wish they were living with dad or something like that. So it's a labor of love, and it's a wonderful thing to do. People who volunteer come in and say, I want to come back because it's funny. Sometimes it's sad. But it's always a special thing to do, and you feel good about giving your time to make children happy. We don't often get thank yous for doing it, but when we do, they say, oh my goodness, my child was so surprised. We're helping Santa because he's so busy. He can't do it all himself. These were letters after 9/11, which of course are very different letters from children. And then we have letters from foreign countries, which I showed you how many foreign country letters we have. Lithuania, Ireland, Spain, China, all over the world, Russia. And we try to answer those, and we've had foreign exchange students come in, and that's very helpful, and they really love doing it. The German ones I can do a little bit, and we have some Spanish people that can help us with that. Lithuania is a little tough, and Russia is a little tough too. So we go up to 2012, and then we will add, a lot of times we have a lot of this kind of thing, how pretty they are. So anyway, these are our letters that we display from every year. And now we'll move into the room, which is the room which shows us the post office, the early postmaster, many things about the post office. Here is the early document from 1856 in which the post office was given the name Santa Claus. On this document, it says that it is the town of Santa Fe that's requesting a post office. My grandmother always called it Santa Fe. I thought she was wrong, but she was right. It was Santa Fe. And there's actually a plat map behind you of the town. But when the postmasters work on it, they said, choose another name than Santa Fe, because there's a Santa Fe in Indiana. And they wrote in, how about another name, maybe the name of, it looks like Sadlick or Seedlick. And then they wrote in Santa Claus with an E. And the postmaster from Fulda made this petition for the post office to be placed in Santa Claus. And his name was Nicolaus. So we didn't make that up. That's true. The man who became postmaster is John Specht. And in the history book we just finished, he's a very important man in the town in the early years. Then we have a lot of documents about how part of the time it was Santa Claus was spelt as one word, and sometimes it was spelt with an E on the end, and sometimes with a small c, lowercase c, through the years. But now with computers, it's capital S-A-N-T-A, capital C-L-A-U-S. We have the post office now. It's been here since 1856. The clock is from the old post office. Somebody gave us the old Edison phonograph, which is wonderful, but we can't play it very well. These are pictures of the old post office that was in the general store, which is down the road here on the way to Lamar or Tell City. And it says post office out here. That was actually like a grocery store and a post office building. The earliest postmaster was a Jacques Martin, and we think fairly surely that he was probably Alsace-Lorraine, which was partly German and partly French. So the Martin, it became Martin family, is very, very prominent in this. And we have a whole books of the family of the Martins, who were the postmasters in that time. So we had that one, and then we had the little wooden log house that was the first post office. Well, actually, yes. And then the second post office, and then the third post office, and now the post office is over in the town in the little strip mall. So we're trying to do an accurate history. What happened here was that Ripley's Believe It or Not put out a column in the 1930s, I think it says 1930, saying, believe it or not, it is a little village in Indiana, and there's a postmaster, and the place was inundated with mail. The mail came in. Here's a picture of the postmaster with all the bags of mail, and he couldn't handle it. So from that time on, 1930s, this has been a tradition to answer the letters. When my father moved back here in 1930, after having been in the war and lived in Chicago, he decided to help. And he got the American Legion Post and the VFW and some of the nuns at Ferdinand and the St. Meinrad Monastery to help answer letters. Santa's too busy to do them all himself. So this is the
and your father was also a big part of the history of Santa Claus.
Absolutely, yes. He really wanted this town to succeed, and he really, really wanted this wonderful spirit of Santa Claus to be kept alive, and he kept it alive for many, many years. So we're very grateful for that. Over here we have pictures of the construction of the statue up at the top of the hill. And you see that the base, is a star. And this is the construction when it was built. This picture is a picture of people out there at the dedication. And this is my brother, and this is my father, and this is my mother, and I'm somewhere here, right here. So I almost know everyone on the picture. So this is all about the statue. At one point somebody painted it red, but it was always white. There was a wishing well on the property, and we have not been able to restore that. This is the story about the little town and what it looked like when it was built. And there you can see it had a school, it had a creamery, it had a doctor's office, it had about 40 inhabitants, we found out. But every community had to be self-sustaining because they couldn't drive to the Walmart if they needed something. And then this is a story about the people who came to town in 1935 and built a castle and a statue, 2 different men. And they had some great disputes about land rights and leases, and the war came along and everything stopped. And nothing happened again until 1946. And that's when we move into this room, which is the room of the Santa Claus Land room. And Lewis Cook, whose picture is over there, came to Santa Claus. He was father of 9 children and thought there should be something here for children to do. So really for about 11 years, letters were answered, but there was no tourists. There was nothing for people to do. We had a war, really. Basically, that's what happened. And so everything stopped. There wasn't money, time, energy, or well, we had I remember because I was growing up, you had to close down at 10 o'clock. Lights all had to be out. Gas was rationed, food was rationed, and so nothing really happened. So then he came here in 46 and started Santa Claus Land. I got on eBay and tried to get a lot of things about Santa Claus Land. Holland Dairy had a coupon, and I found one of those, which I was really proud to get. A lot of the dishes that they used and cups that they used, and some of the earlier rides and some of the things that were there, because I didn't want it all to get lost. And there's still some more in storage. But we had a German band. People from Huntingburg played in the German band. That's one of their records. And this is a DVD of the history, but we're not playing it right now. And then out here we have a little gift shop where we sell things. We try very hard to support local artisans. We have jewelry that's made by a local lady. We have up here hand-painted ornaments that are made by a local woman, goblets that are made, soap that's made by local people. We're trying to help our local artists to succeed. Sisters from Ferdinand, their cookies, and it's just a tiny little shop where people can buy some souvenirs. That's a player piano behind you. You pedal the wheels. It's about a 1920s, I think. It belonged to my family, and I had it restored. At Christmas time, when we're in here, we play it. But you have to keep children. Children like to beat on it, so we have to be careful with it.
So now we move back this direction. Back this direction, we have more of the, per se, the Coca-Cola Santa Claus, among others. I know I'm spoiling the surprise, but
yeah, the Coca-Cola Santa. There's some old dolls back there in the corner, although it's very dark. Some of the history of the highway, Highway 41, and things that have 64 that have happened here. One dedicated to my dad and all the parades he was in and different sleighs he rode in. I wish I had some of those sleighs, but I don't. And then this is Bill Cook, who, of course, is responsible for 64 coming down to our part of the country, and for a lot of 231. Picture of him with John F. Kennedy making the Lincoln Park National Memorial. And, well, just things of interest that are of interest to people who are interested in history. We have many, many more things, but this is what we have room for. And then back here we have a replica of my father, a wax figure, as Santa Claus in his original suit and bells and the backdrop that was in Santa Claus Land and all of the things he used there, even the book that he used, the Night Before Christmas book that he read out of. He's wearing his real boots. Almost all the things are real here. And some of the letters that he himself wrote. This chair was in alongside of him, and that's where children sat. The snowman behind you was in pictures. We looked at the pictures, and then we went around and found things that were authentic that he used. So we just have a smattering of the history of the man Santa Claus, of the town Santa Claus, of the post office, of the letters. You know, we could do a lot more in a nice big building that we'd love to have.
We'll wrap up on that subject, just kind of looking forward now. You guys just moved into this building recently. You said it was owned by Holiday World. Kind of look ahead to the future.
The future to me would mean a lovely building, large enough to hold all of the archives and all of the historical items that we have. Possibly having a room dedicated to the person of Santa Claus and the history of how Santa Claus started, St. Nicholas, and then Santa Clauses from different countries, and then, of course, this Santa Claus being the real Santa Claus, and a room of, we have a great collection of miniature trains that Mr. Lewis Cook had, Would be wonderful to have a train room for children to go into and see trains running. I'd like to have a doll room with a collection of dolls, and possibly a room dedicated to Abraham Lincoln because of his life here. So, we dream, and we'd love to see it come true at some time.
Well, absolutely, Pat. We appreciate your time with us this evening. Our guest this evening has been Pat Cook, and this has been our tour of the Santa Claus Museum. We'll have more news right after this.